Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this second episode for today of the show about the show. As always, every episode of the show is dedicated to the memory of my dad, who taught me to love the game of baseball. Very excited about my guest today. I have former Major League pitcher and coach in the Twins system, Eric Rasmussen, on. He has coached a number of very successful major leaguers, and we will also talk about the sports clinic that he runs for children, which is a really, really cool thing that he does. And we're also going to talk about the distinction that he holds. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Eric Rasmussen. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing just fine, Devin.
Good. So you were drafted originally by the Boston Red Sox in the fourth round of the 1971 draft, but you opted to go to the University in New Orleans, where you were an All-American. And then you were drafted in the 32nd round by the Cardinals 2 years later. Can you talk about that decision to pass up signing with the Red Sox and decide to go to college?
Well, I was enrolled at Indian Hills Community College in Centerville, Iowa. When that draft came, that was a January draft back in those days because there were two drafts a year. And Red Sox didn't offer me much money at all, and I liked to coach there, so I stayed at Indian Hills, and I went to New Orleans then for 1 year, my junior year, and got drafted by the Cardinals. So I don't know, it was just didn't seem like it was enough money they offered me, and heck, I ended up getting less anyway when I did sign. It up just fine.
You ended up getting drafted. Was there anybody else in your draft class that the Cardinals drafted in 1973 that made it to the majors that people might know about?
Oh, the guy that got drafted along with me that really made the most of a career was Mike Crowley, a relief pitcher he's from Long Island.
Yeah.
He played with the Cardinals, but I think he did his best work, I believe, with the Cubbies. So Mike was one of those guys. Wasn't a big draft. John Camargo is another guy that played with the Cardinals and I think Expos, Mets. He played around a little bit. Catcher, was a good player. There wasn't a big whoop-de-doo draft there.
Okay. You moved through the Cardinal system pretty rapidly. You reached AAA in just your second full season in 1975. You were called up to the majors in July. And talk to me about your major league debut.
Well, that was in San Diego. Kind of cool. My folks flew out from Wisconsin to see that, so that was good. And just one of those deals where, I think it's an easy advantage for a pitcher. First time out, no one knows you. And nobody on my team knew me, by God. And just went out there and pitched pretty good and shut them out. And got a hit, got an RBI. It was a pretty good night. Got on the radio show with Jack Buck afterwards, and my dad did too. He asked me he says, "What do you get for that?" I said, "I think I get $50, Dad." He says, "What do I get?" I said, "Nothing. I'll buy you dinner." So that was really, that was nice.
Absolutely. And you did pretty well, too. I mean, you pitched a 7-hit shutout, you walked one, you struck out 7 guys in your debut. And like you said, too, you also got your first major league hit and drove in an RBI. You wound up starting 13 games for the Cardinals that year. You went 5-5 with a 3.78 ERA. What was your rookie season like for you, just kind of being a guy who just broken into the big leagues?
Well, it was interesting because when I got to the team there, I believe we were 12 or 13 games out. And, by the 1st of September, I think we were like a game out. So we got into a pennant race, but then the Pirates the Pirates, if I'm not mistaken, got real hot and kind of ran away with it. But we made it a race. It was really fun and got to pitch in some good games. Got to pitch a game in Cincinnati against those guys. Kind of full house thing in a day game. And I think I won 7 2/3, and they took me out of there. In fact, I know I punched out. I know I had Johnny Bench struck out with 2 outs in that 8th inning, 2 pitches, and I asked Ted after the game, I said, Teddy, where were those pitches, 0-2 and 1-2? And he says, oh, right there, both strikes. I said, well, what's going on? He says, what are you, stupid? That's Bench. You won't get that pitch on him for another 3 years. So those are goofy things, remember,
Yeah, well, and, being a Hall of Famer, yeah, he's going to get that call. So, after splitting the 1976 season between the bullpen and the starting rotation, you had, statistically anyway, your best season in 1977. You had a career-best 3.48 ERA. You pitched 233 innings, and you had 11 complete games. You guys finished in 3rd place that year. When you look at the game today, kind of being a former pitcher and pitching coach, can you talk about how the game was different back then? I mean, Bert Blyleven, he always said, back when I played, we were signed to go 9 innings, and that's what they expected. Is that kind of how it was when you played too? You kind of expected to go 9 innings?
Well, I guess when we all grew up, days we were all trying to go the whole game from Little League on, so it wasn't
sure.
It wasn't just when you signed, that's just the way it was. And I don't know, you were geared that way. It was certainly more mental than physical. I mean, physically it's not that big a deal to go 9. It's mentally you have to put it into your mind and here I'm going to go 9, and if I can't, I can't. But it was more of a mindset, and you got to win. If you want to get 5+ innings, it wasn't too good. You weren't too proud.
Sure. Yep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you remember about after you left the Cardinals, you signed you got traded to the Padres. I'm sorry, for George Hendrick. What do you remember about the years you had with the Padres?
Oh, it was kind of a funny thing. I had success the first year I was there. Gosh, I think I got there. I was like 2-5, and lost the first couple of games. So I'm sitting there 2-7, and I'm not too happy with life. And that was in June. By June I was 2-7, and the 1st of September I was 14-10. So I got on a really good roll, and the team was playing well and had a good time. In September we just they couldn't score any runs, and ended up having a year. I should have had a really good year there as far as record goes, but that was okay. And I played with some guys that were pretty cool. I had some good friends there, and we had a good time. The next year was good. I liked Roger Craig as a manager. That was
sure.
He was a good man, and I think that he was the reason I got traded there. He liked the idea of going having complete games. So
was Ozzie Smith still a member of the Padres when you were there? Or?
Yes, Ozzie. When I got traded there, Ozzie was a rookie, so he was just getting going, and he played short behind me most times, and heck, it was a done deal. You get the ball hit that way, it's an out. So he could he could pick it from day one. Couldn't hit at all at that point, but he learned to later on.
Absolutely, and he had a Hall of Fame career because of it. Following the 1980 season, you got released by the Padres. That winter, you pitched in the Mexican League, and you spent all of 81 and 82 with Leones de Yucatan. Can you talk about pitching in the Mexican League and just kind of how different the culture is in Mexico compared to? Yeah, go ahead.
It was quite a deal there. It was completely different. I mean, first off, it's a complete shocker when you spend 6 years in the major leagues and all of a sudden you get, pretty much put in exile. So that was completely different right away. As far as the part of pitching down there, the toughest part is just the conditions. It's kind of place where there was basically no bullpens. So, you go warm up and find a spot out in the outfield that might have a little hump in it and kind of walk it off and,
sure.
Get loose for the game. That was in most every park. There's only a couple bullpen mounds, actually. As far as the pitching goes, the Mexican players at that time, it was like facing a lineup of a lot of number 2 hitters that put the ball in play, good breaking ball hitters. Really didn't hit the fastball much, and when you started figuring that out, you threw a lot of fastballs and pitched inside a lot.
Sure.
The travel was really tough. Some of the hotels, we had a saying, the worse it gets, better it is, because you'll never forget it. We stayed in some hotels that were absolutely incredible, just like almost like a prison cell type thing. And
Sure.
And, but there were a lot of Americans on the team, and, you sure did, you saw some places you'd never go on vacation, let's put it that way. And it was quite an education, and it was very interesting. You get up in the mornings, and I did a lot of exploring, a lot of walking around, go to the mercados and just kind of sightsee and walk around and see the different places. And, it really, if it wasn't that I wanted to be in the major leagues, and I should have been in the major leagues, I would have been extremely enjoyable in a lot of ways, because you did learn a different part of the world, I'll tell you.
Absolutely. So let's fast forward a little bit. 1983, you get sold to the Royals. 1983, you end up pitching a shutout you end up pitching a shutout against the Boston Red Sox. And by pitching that shutout, you earned the distinction of being the only major league pitcher ever to throw a shutout in both your National League and American League debut. What do you remember about that game against the Red Sox?
Well, it was in, it was in Kansas City, which is good. Better than pitching at Fenway. And
right.
Just walked in there and just pitched, and, a couple balls hit hard to get caught. And
sure.
Before you know it, 9 innings is up and had a shutout. It went by fast. I don't know, there weren't many pitches thrown. I think I gave up 7 hits, and it was like almost a mirror image of my first game. I think it was 4-0, the same way as the first one. I think they both were 7 hits, something like that. So I don't know. Just basically, you could say I had 2 really good nights. I don't know, but it went fine. And actually, there was another guy that did that. A guy named Bob Spade.
Okay.
I've been told, did the same thing in 1907 and 1910. So I'm actually the second.
The second. Okay.
And in fact, right after that, I saw the San Diego Chicken somewhere, Ted Gianola somewhere on the road. And he says, "Hey, I see you set a record." And I said, "No, I tied the record." He says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Some guy did it in 1907 and 1910. He says, shit, he's dead. You're the only one." He said, God, that was funny. But, the chicken.
Sure, absolutely.
So, yeah, that was a good memory and a good night.
You had 10 career RBIs, and you had interesting little tidbit is you had a 2 RBI game against the reigning Cy Young winner Randy Jones of the Padres in 1977.
Oh, well, yeah. I managed to, I don't know, let's say hit one of those soft sinkers that he throws. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd get a hit now and then. You know, you get a hit here and there, and do that.
Absolutely. So you know, after your playing career was over, did you know that you kind of wanted to become a pitching coach? Was coaching kind of always something that you had an interest in the back of your mind, or was it just kind of something where you felt like it was the right thing at the right time?
You know what? When I played, especially when I was in the major leagues, I never gave two thoughts to being a coach at all. You know, and it's kind of funny. You know, in the big leagues, it's kind of like all you think about. It's just you're a player.
Sure.
And then,
yep.
You know, life takes you different directions. And my big league career didn't last nearly as long as planned. And, you know, you end up playing, and the longer you play, then it starts becoming something that you think about, especially when you're in AAA a lot. And,
sure.
and you know, you talk and you watch, and then you're thinking, geez, I don't want to do this much longer. You know, what am I going to do? And you get to the point that I've had enough. They're not ever going to let me back in the big leagues. And then it kind of hits you, and then you get offered a job, and then you just kind of go. And I guess you get in the comfort zone with baseball, and you don't want to leave.
So it's kind of a way for you to stay close to the game, despite not being able to play.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just you're so used to being on a team and
yep.
going to a baseball park, and it's a tough thing to give up. You know, it's a tough thing, and let's face it, the real world is not that easy. You know,
sure.
The real world is, you know, to find a regular kind of job, and most ball players, you know, don't react well to the 9-to-5 existence. You know,
sure.
So it just kind of fit, and I just kept doing it, you know, forever until this past fall. So I guess you call me a lifer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a diehard Twins fan. I've been a Twins fan my entire life. You picked a good season to join the Minnesota Twins organization. You joined the Twins in 1991. From 91 through 95, you were the pitching coach for the GCL Twins, their rookie level. In 96 and 97, you were the Twins Advanced A, or the A+, Fort Myers Miracle. In 98, you jumped to Double-A, New Britain, and then in 99, you came back to the Miracle. But in 2008, you were promoted to minor league pitching coordinator. Can you talk about some of the players, maybe like a Brad Radke or somebody like that, who came through the Twins minor league system that you really kind of coached and you saw really succeed in the major leagues?
Well, there's been quite a few that go by, and you know, when I was in rookie ball there, the very first year, that was Radke signed and LaTroy Hawkins signed in that same draft.
Yep.
So I worked with those guys, you know, just the rest of that summer, you know, just June, July, August.
Yep.
And then they went along on their own way, and both had really, really good careers. Radke was a real quiet kid, called him the silent assassin. Real good competitor and control pitcher, and went about his business in a real good way, and everybody loved him. You know, he was a no-nonsense guy, and just a very simple plan, and he carried it out and over and over and over. And LaTroy was a guy who was blessed with some kind of arm. You know, just he could still probably pitch if he wanted to. He's got just this tremendous, you know, natural physical ability to throw that baseball, and had a great career for so many teams. He knows everybody on the planet, I swear. And
he does.
And I'll tell you what, LaTroy. What's really impressive with LaTroy, and one of the cool things is that LaTroy, he might show up on a little league field in Cape Coral in spring training just to go see somebody play that he got to know the people when he lived here and played here. And that's the kind of guy he is. He's really good with kids, and can't say enough good things about LaTroy. I actually know him much better than Brad.
Yeah, and you coached a couple other, just a few other guys that you coached. You told me before we jumped on the podcast here that you didn't have too much to do with Johan Santana, but you had a hand with Matt Garvey and Mark Redmond and guys like that. Can you kind of talk about guys like that, especially maybe Santana and Garza? I mean, Garza especially had a pretty nice career in the major leagues.
Yeah, Johan, we got him in a Rule 5, and he had come out of low A ball, Midwest League. And Jose Marzan, who's still in the organization, was a manager in the Midwest League, and he's the one that recommended him so highly. So we took Johan, he went to the big leagues and, worked out of the bullpen and got going. So I never really had much to do with him at all. I mean, I know him. I know him to say hello. And he's a really good guy. He lives down here in the same area that I do in Florida. Great guy. And, of course, we all know he's a fine pitcher. I mean, you can throw names at me, and I can tell you a little bit about him.
Sure.
Let's see, who else?
Yeah, Matt Garza.
Matt Garza, I would say that I gave him the highest grades of any pitcher that I ever had go through here. He pitched for me in Fort Myers, Miracle. Yeah, I gave him the highest grades because he had all electric pitches and could throw them all where he wanted to, and you just couldn't hit him. That one year he pitched for me in Fort Myers, did great. Went to AA, did better. Went to AAA, did better there, and went to the big leagues. He hit every spot in 1 year. He went right through there, and I expected him to be a major star, but for whatever reason, it never really happened. I don't think he ever realized his potential. He's got some kind of electric stuff, that kid. He had some kind of stuff in command. So he was the highest rated pitcher, and him and Liriano, Francisco, and we got him from the Giants. He pitched for me in Fort Myers, and electric stuff. And he could, the funny thing is when you see control problems, that guy, to me, could throw a strike anytime you wanted to, and we got him. Yeah. He'd go 2-0 and throw a strike. I mean, he'd percolate in that radar gun, which I hate the gun, but just for reference, he'd say 93, 94, and then he'd get the 2 strikes and say 97. So he knew when to put somebody away, and he knew that right away. And he was a high stuff guy. He had stuff. Those two are the guys with the best stuff. The best stuff as starting pitchers.
Now you had a big league career, obviously, as a player, and you've coached a lot of players in the minor leagues. Is Johan Santana's changeup in his prime the most devastating pitch you've ever seen? Is it the best pitch you've ever seen? Because I mean, that thing was unhittable when he threw that changeup.
Well, yeah, because he had the circle change, which is the top of the line if you can command it, and there's only been a few guys that actually can do it that good.
Yep.
But you know what? I didn't see him up close as a pitcher.
Sure.
But I know that's if you grade a pitch, 8 being the highest, it's an 8. It's one of the few. So that's that's a high ranking pitch. Liriano's slider would be a high ranking pitch. Through the years. I'm trying to think. I mean, the guys that I've coached, you look at Radke, his stuff was very basic, but it was pinpoint type control. I bet if you checked on the spin rate business, he had high spin rate because he'd throw that invisible fastball right down Central Ave and they'd swing through it. So there's, that's a spin rate issue there. Most likely he had good spin.
Sure.
You'd have to throw names at me. I'm more up on the current guys. The current guys,
sure.
You've seen Fernando Romero now. Everybody's watching him, and he's had a pretty good go of it. He's got good stuff, but what he's got going for him that's exciting is his frame of mind. And when you watch
his
him
makeup,
pitch,
he just doesn't seem to get rattled.
That's right. He's determined. He's determined. Somebody asked, I saw some interview, and they asked him about something about him coming up there, and he says, I have no time to waste. And that's him. That's a kid that couldn't speak any English at all and came back after one winter at home, and all of a sudden he's talking to you like he's a guy down the street. And what he needs to learn, he learns. And there's a guy I can't talk good enough about, because when I watched him in his first big league game on TV, and he started shaking his head the first batter. He wanted to throw what he wanted to throw, and he did it the whole game. And
he did,
that's how you know there's a pitcher on that mound.
Absolutely.
The catcher doesn't know him. The catcher's calling stuff that doesn't go along with what he's been taught and what he knows. And now, after a while, maybe they'll get to know him, and they'll know how to call that game, because I think Castro was back there. He didn't know him from Adam, if I'm not mistaken. Castro was – Garver knows him a little bit, but, Garver hasn't caught him much. So, basically, no one knows him. He's got a head of his own. That's good. Barrios is another kid with the stuff. He did okay last night. He's gotten away from his
seemed to me last night his curve, he kind of refound his curveball. Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? I didn't I tried to watch that game. I kept getting distracted. Every time I got distracted is when he was pitching, so I didn't see much. But I've been noticing lately in his little bit of a stall, I guess you'd say, he's starting to throw all these two-seamers and not throwing his changeup. And it's not him. He's a live fastball guy that should work the top of the zone more. When he works the top and the bottom, he's untouchable. And he's got a tremendous changeup, hardly used it when he's going bad. So, he's a guy with stuff. So those two guys are going to be at the top of that rotation.
Absolutely.
The tough thing is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when here's the question.
Right.
You get rid of Lance Lynn, who you just gave the money to, and can't get anybody out.
Right.
So there's another one. If you watch.
Yep, only went 3 innings today. He only went 3 innings today, and he was up in the 80 pitch count. So.
Oh, well, Lance Lynn is a high fastball pitcher in the past when he's good, and works everything off the high fastball, which disguises breaking balls and disguises two-seamer in the righties. And he's trying to pitch downstairs. I watch him. That's not him. So he's out of his game, whether he knows it or not, from what I can see. So, what do? Do you send Romero out? Not me. I keep Romero and make an adjustment somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah, Coach, we got about 90 seconds left. One of the guys I'm really, really excited about is a guy who's at Cedar Rapids right now, Brusdor Gratterall. I don't know how familiar you are with him, but he's basically a flamethrower. He threw 101 3 times the other night. Do you know what can you tell me about him real quick?
He's got a special arm. Still trying to learn how to pitch. Getting healthy after that Tommy John, and then I think this is going to be a big year for him to stay healthy and learn how to pitch against a little bit better competition. But yeah, he's got a special arm, good breaking stuff. He's okay. And he's got a ways to go, but you never know when guys got that kind of arm. If they start showing you that they can, what they got between their ears works, then you got a chance.
Sure. Tell me real quick. I wish we had more time, but tell me real quick about your Nub Ability Athletic Foundation.
Oh, okay. Well, Nub Ability is an organization that is nobody that I really work for, but I've worked with them. I'm working with a nonprofit called LetKidsBeKids.us. That's where you find it. And I ran into a guy named Chris Rizzola down here in Cape Coral, and he started this, and it's geared to get kids that have differences to play in Little League Baseball, as long as they're cognitive. We had one young kid play with us that had a difference where he's had a nub arm. Played. We had a kid with cerebral palsy play with our team one night, and these kids were just having a blast, and the kids accepted them fine, and it was good. So if they we're trying to get the kids in the Little League associations to let these kids play. There's no
Sure.
league for them. It's not like Challenger baseball. That's a little different kind of a thing. And it's tough to convince people because it's so ultra competitive, and it's just not too cool when everybody's supposedly a big league player and this kid's going to be this and that. The kids love it when those kids were on our team. It was, and that's good, and that's why it's Let Kids Be Kids. So we're also trying to make an attempt to get the parents and the coaches to let kids play, not try to run everything that they do during a ball game. Quit calling every pitch. Quit having kids have to look at you every time they need to advance a base, and have the parents, as much as they care, not to yell instructions, but more just encouragement. And
Absolutely.
if we can make a difference in that way, it would be great, and I'm hoping we can. So we're doing some stuff, some online learning type things, and just trying to get people to calm down and cool off and let kids be kids and let them have fun.
Absolutely. Coach, we're out of time. I cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast and giving me a half an hour of your day. It was a blast, and thank you very, very much.
Well, thanks for having me. I just get long-winded. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Hey, I could talk. I love talking Twins baseball. I could talk Twins baseball all day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eric Rasmussen. Thanks, Coach.
Good deal. Thanks for calling, and thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, that was Eric Rasmussen. He was a former Major League pitcher and a coach in the Twins system. Talked about some of the coaches, or some of the players he used to coach, had glowing things to say about Brad Radke and LaTroy Hawkins. Also, some of the current guys. I brought up Brewster Gratterall. He mentioned Jose Barrios and Fernando Romero. So, baseball lifer there. I've got one more podcast coming up today. It's going to be a short one. It's going to be with Darren Doogie Wolfson from KMSP, Minneapolis, St. Paul. He is going to talk to us about the Twins, what's going on, if they're going to end up trading for a catcher now that Jason Castro's out for the year, and we're going to talk a little bit of Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. So stay tuned for that. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you down the road in podcast land.